Hey guys, welcome back to the panic room. No, I think that was a little too Georgia. Just kidding. Although that may or may not be foreshadowing. Not giving any spoilers, but anyway. Welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to come on here and talk about some creepy people I know about, since it's week 4 of Creeptober, and the theme for this week is poetry. What is a haunted poet? So a haunted poet is a poet who is highly misunderstood by everyone. He's living kind of like on the sidelines of society. He has this like inner torture going on. They have been very romanticized over the years. Actually, the coin was termed by Alfred de Vigny, who was in part of the romanticism, whatever era. Now, Alfred de Vigny coined this term because he referred to Stelio, his main character in his work of the same name, as follows. Well, this is the quote they coined the term. From the day he learned to read, he was a poet, and henceforth belonged to a race forever tortured by the powers of earth. Today I wanted to focus on Les Poètes Maudits, which is an essay or work written by Paul Verlaine, who started the term and way of describing people as the haunted poets. Now, in his essay, he talks about 6 of his favorite poets, which we'll name in a second, who to him had this quality that he admired, and the qualities that I mentioned before, having this like inner torture, kind of like style. Now, since the publication of this, there have been many other authors and artists who have been deemed to be haunted poets that are not mentioned in here, but I'm going to focus on these ones. But you'd have, for example, Edgar Allan Poe, even Jim Morrison. I mean, the list goes on, you know. There's another one that I'm going to mention later in the video that's not mentioned in the essay, but I think should have been, and that is Charles Baudelaire, who is another one of my favorite poets, but I'll get back to him later. The first poet that is mentioned in here is Tristan Corbière. Now, Tristan Corbière was born in 1845 and died in 1875, and he was part of the symbolism movement. What makes his work kind of like special is that he tended to take classics and deform them, like The Cicada and the Ant by Jean La Fontaine, which is a famous fable, or even, for example, his poem called Sonnet, where he literally deforms the sonnet like an actual sonnet. Now, if you're curious specifically what I'm talking about, here's one of his poems.
The poet's pipe. I'm the pipe of a poet, at least his wet nurse, and I tame the beast. Whenever the one-eyed chimeras strike his brow, I smoke aright, and on his ceiling in the night, he'll no longer see the spiders. There, I reveal a cloud-filled sky, sea, desert, and mirage he'll spy. Amongst them his dead eye strays again, and when a dense fog fills the air, he'll see familiar shadows there, and I'll feel him bite my stem. Another tempest his soul will free, his shackles, his life, totally. I feel myself dying, he sleeps again. Sleep, the beast is calm. Pursue your dream until the end. Befall, my poor dreamer, the smoke is all. For all is vanished in smoke, it's true.
Alright, the second poet who's mentioned in this essay, who is another one of my personal favorite. He writes amazing poetry, absolutely gorgeous, and that is Arthur Rimbaud. So Arthur Rimbaud lived from 1854 to 1891, and he was a poet with very modest beginnings. So he was born in like the countryside, like not Paris, and he fled to Paris in 1870 because of the war, and he kind of, like, he was revolted by the war, so he fled and started writing poetry, kind of criticizing the war. Now, fun fact, in 1873, Verlaine got real stinking drunk and high on who knows what, and he shot Rimbaud. Now, obviously, Rimbaud didn't die because he then wrote beautiful works like Illumination or Illuminations, or I believe it was A Voyage to Hell or A Trip to Hell or something like that. So this was more in prose. He wrote more in prose after that, but he was always in, you know, like beautiful poems. And then after that, I think he was plagued by life and he joined the army and then he died. Leonardo DiCaprio is the spitting image of Arthur Rimbaud. Well, maybe not spitting, but they look damn close. They look a lot alike. Another reason why he's my favorite author, or not my favorite author, but one of my favorite poets. Okay, so these tortured souls of people are also pretty rebellious. It comes a lot with being like against the grain and whatever, but here's one thing that I love about Rimbaud, okay? So I told you that he was born in the French countryside, as in not Paris, and the reason I put it that way is because France used to be a little elitist, okay? And in many ways it still is. But basically back in the day with aristocracy and everything, it was like there's Paris and then there's not Paris. Like there's aristocracy and noble and bourgeoisie, and then there's like the peasants over there. Right, you get the point? So my French teacher told us this story, by the way, back in the day, and it always stuck. I love him for this. So when he came to Paris, he was made fun of a lot by other poets who were, you know, Parisians, aristocrats. You know, you had to be well educated back then to even be literate. So long story short, one day there's this dinner for poets. I forget the name of the event, but there was this dinner and he was being made fun of for his accent, and at some point he just snapped and he was tired of it. And so you know what he did? My guy literally just stood up on the table and pissed on everyone and all the food, and he I love him for that. So there's a link to the translated version of Les Poètes Maudits in case you want to check it out. I believe in one of the poems left down there, there's a reference to pissing at the universe. I love this man. But in the meantime, let's find out what some of his poems sound like.
Eternity. It has been found again. What? Eternity. It is the sea mingled with the sun. My immortal soul, keep your vow despite the lonely night and the day on fire. Thus you detach yourself from human approval, from common impulses. You fly off as you may. No hope, never, and no orator. Knowledge and fortitude, torture is certain. No more tomorrow, satiny embers. Your own heart is the only duty. It has been found again. What? Eternity. It is the sea mingled with the sun.
So the third poet we have here is Stéphane Mallarmé. So Stéphane Mallarmé lived from 1842 to 1898. He was plagued a lot during his life during for the death of his mother when he was a child, and then the death of his sister when he was a young teenager, and then later by the death of his child when he was a father, well, after he was a father. Now his writing is known for being complicated because he uses a lot of weird syntax, a lot of awkward like complex turns of phrases. So yeah, let's find out what his poetry sounds like.
What silk of time's sweet balm, where the chimera tired himself, is worth the coils and natural cloud you tend before the mirror's calm. The blanks of meditating flags stand high along our avenue, but I've your naked tresses too, for burying my contented eyes. No, the mouth cannot be sure of tasting anything in its bite, unless your princely lover cares. In that mighty brush of hair to breathe out like a diamond, the cry of glory stifled there.
So next up we have Marceline Desbordes-Valmore, who was a poet, actress, and a lyricist. She lived from 1786 to 1859. Now, she was born into a bourgeoisie family, but they had been ruined following the French Revolution. Much like Mallarmé, she was plagued by a lot of deaths in her family. So there was her mother, who died of the yellow fever. I believe 3 of her children died later in life, along with the death of multiple friends of family. One thing that makes her poetry really special is the musicality in them. She actually won a lot of prizes and even won a grant for 15,000 francs at the time. Now, I don't know what that's in euros or dollars nowadays, but it was a lot. So yeah, let's check her out.
Oriental Day. That was a day like the beautiful one that set love ablaze to see all undone. It was a day of divine charity, where in blue air walks eternity, where, disrobed of stifling weight, earth plays and becomes a child elate. It was like a mother's kiss in its power, a dream long astray, an ephemeral hour. The hour of birds and fragrance and light, of forgetting all things in unequaled delight. That was a day like the beautiful one that set love ablaze to see all undone.
Alright, next up we have Auguste de Villiers de l'Isle-Adam, 1838 until 1889. Now, he was originally from Brittany and was actually inspired a lot by Edgar Allan Poe, and he, alongside with Mallarmé, who I mentioned earlier, were great inspirations to the Surrealism movement. So Villiers de l'Isle-Adam wrote a lot of poetry and then also ventured into plays and short stories. Let's find out what his works sound like.
Encounter. You shook your black torch of doom. You owned no sense of being mortal. I have forged the grill and the portal, and my heart is certain of the tomb. You will not be resurrected.
And finally, the 6th poet you will find at the end of the Haunted Poets essay is, in French, Pauvre les lions, or in English, Poor Leland, and that is, in French, the anagram for Paul Verlaine. You guessed it, the boy referred to himself in his own essay as being one of his sources of inspiration. Okay, so Paul Verlaine actually became a huge symbol for the haunted poet category, which I find to be quite ironic and tragic to become a subject of focus. So I don't know, it's just like a situation. Now, what I find interesting with the haunted poets is I feel like that kind of idea of an artist who is plagued by his inner turmoil and who just writes the most beautiful poems and like is just very romanticized. But one thing you'll find with these artists in this list particularly, and with other to come maybe, is that actually they were not much. They were very rebellious, very anti-society, or like against the grain, if you will, which is kind of like early rock and rollers, if you ask me. They're kind of like Sid Vicious of their time, which is fantabulous. However, there's a lot of violence going on, especially with Verlaine. Like I said earlier, he was lovers with Rimbaud, and he got skunk drunk and shot him. So Paul Verlaine, amongst many things, was a wonderful poet. So what makes his poems so beautiful are the musicality, especially his play with odd rhythms, and his multiple references to more like highly melancholy themes, and he plays a lot with ideas of light and dark. So yeah, let's let Pax read us through Verlaine.
Fawn's head. Among the leaves green casket stained with gold, among the leaves uncertain and flowering, in vast plumes that acrid slumbering kisses hold, before the exquisite embroidery trembling. The panicked fawn's round wide eyes appear, he, white teeth biting a crimson flower, brown and bloodied like an old wine clear, lips parted laughs amidst the leafy shower. And when like a squirrel he's gone, fleeing, his laughter still beating every leaf, is the wood's golden kiss, in our belief, frightened by a bullfinch from its musing.
Now, I've mentioned all the 6 poets of the Haunted Poets essay by Paul Verlaine, including himself, but one poet who I think needs to be mentioned in this video is Charles Baudelaire, who also happens to be my other favorite poet with Arthur Rimbaud. Now, I just wanted to read this poem because to me it really embodies the whole idea of a haunted poet. This idea of kind of losing yourself to yourself in the society. Like, I don't know, I saw this poem by Baudelaire and I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna link a second link below with more of his poetry, and I absolutely encourage you to check it out. These are all translated to English, by the way, you're good. So I hesitated a lot between this one and between The Invitation to the Voyage, which you'll be able to find down below, which I think that one is also absolutely gorgeous. Here is Get Drunk by Charles Baudelaire. Always be drunk. That's it. The great imperative. In order not to feel time's horrid fardel bruise your shoulders, grinding you into the earth. Get drunk and stay that way. On what? On wine, poetry, virtue, as you wish. But get drunk. And if you sometimes happen to wake upon the porches of a palace, in the green grass of a ditch, in the dismal loneliness of your own room, your drunkenness gone or disappearing, ask the wind, the wave, the star, the bird, the clock. Ask everything that flees, everything that groans, or rolls, or sings, everything that speaks. Ask what time it is, and the wind, the wave, the star, the bird, the clock will answer you. Time to get drunk. Don't be martyred slaves of time. Get drunk. Stay drunk. On wine, virtue, poetry, as you wish. And just because I'm always curious what things sound like in their original language, here is Get Drunk in French, the original language, and that is Enivrez-vous. Enivrez-vous. Il faut être toujours ivre. Tout est là. C'est l'unique question. Pour ne pas sentir l'horrible fardeau du temps qui brise vos épaules et vous penche vers la terre. Il faut vous enivrer sans trêve. Mais de quoi? De vin, de poésie ou de vertu, à votre guise. Mais enivrez-vous. Et si quelquefois, sur les marches d'un palais, sur l'herbe verte d'un fossé, dans la solitude morne de votre chambre, vous vous réveillez, l'ivresse déjà diminuée ou disparue, demandez au vent, à la vague, à l'étoile, à l'oiseau, à l'horloge, à tout ce qui fuit, à tout ce qui gémit, à tout ce qui roule, à tout ce qui chante, à tout ce qui parle. Demandez quelle heure il est, et le vent, la vague, l'étoile, l'oiseau, l'horloge vous répondront. Il est temps de s'enivrer. Pour n'être pas les esclaves martyrisés du temps, enivrez-vous. Enivrez-vous sans cesse, de vin, de poésie ou de vertu, à votre guise. Well, thank you so much to Pax Panic for participating in my video. It was so much fun. I'll link her channel down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm always speechless by Baudelaire and Rimbaud. Seriously, if you had a favorite, let me know. And I hope you guys enjoy your Halloween. Bye!